Hola a todos. Hello everyone. This video is for teachers. The goal is to teach you some helpful tips and a few useful phrases to encourage communication with parents. Parents who speak only or mostly Spanish. And the tips in this video could be applied to working with parents who are speakers of any other language as well. Now this video is just one of many resources available about this topic, but I'll be sharing things from my perspective as a teacher and also as a volunteer in many parent-teacher conferences. So we'll begin with tips for working with an interpreter and then move on to some useful phrases. First, it's always a good idea to briefly consult with your interpreter before the meeting begins with the parents. This way you can establish how you can both work together to make communication most effective. If you're working with an interpreter, look at the parent you're speaking to, not at the interpreter. Remember that communication is not only through words, it's also through eye contact, body language, intonation. So you can definitely create a rapport with the parent without necessarily speaking their same language. Pause frequently. Speak in sentences, not paragraphs. And this is to give the interpreter time to interpret what you're saying. It can be easy to forget to pause once you get going, once you get started talking. So when you consult with the interpreter before the meeting, you may ask if they'd like to establish a visual cue to remind you to pause. For example, the interpreter could subtly tap on the table to let you know it's time to pause. Avoid jargon. Express the big idea, not esoteric terms and unnecessary details. Now, this doesn't mean you need to dull down what you're saying, but if you use a lot of jargon, not only is this going to be difficult for the interpreter to translate, but also it may not be meaningful to the parent because the specifics, the small details about educational systems and jargon used to describe this vary across cultures. So always think of a way that you can communicate the important information without relying on jargon. Use visuals such as samples of student work. When you're showing the student work, your body language can communicate what the student is being successful on and what they're struggling with. You can also use visual representations of performance, such as graphs or representations of report cards that use images. Now I'll teach you some useful phrases that you can say or provide in writing to invite questions and dialogue. So you can use these even if you don't have an interpreter available to work with you. A little bit can go a long way. It's very important to make clear that questions and comments are welcome. Now, the Spanish-speaking world is very large and diverse. So I'm just basing this on my personal experience that some people in the Spanish-speaking world see culturally teachers as an authority figure and an expert. And so for some people, asking a question of the teacher can be seen as undermining her authority. So it can be seen as disrespectful. So you need to make sure, get to know the parents, try to feel where they're coming from, and make sure that they know that you want them to ask you questions and talk with you. So, of course, the most simple way to ask this is to ask, ¿Usted tiene alguna pregunta? That's, do you have any questions? ¿Usted tiene alguna pregunta? And if it's more than one parent, And this is just a small detail, so it's not too important, but grammatically, if it's more than one parent, you would say, ¿Ustedes tienen alguna pregunta? ¿Ustedes tienen alguna pregunta? That would be, do you both have any questions? If that's too long, just try saying, ¿alguna pregunta? ¿Alguna pregunta? ¿Alguna pregunta? That just means any questions. Now, like I said, some, not all, but some Spanish speakers may not feel comfortable asking teachers questions right away. So it's always a good idea to reinforce at the end of the conference that you do want to invite them to ask you questions. So you could say this phrase at the end of the conference, or if it's too long, provide it in writing along with your contact information. Si usted tiene alguna pregunta, por favor, no dude en contactarme. That's if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. Si usted tiene alguna pregunta, por favor, no dude en contactarme. So, what we've just learned is inviting the parents to ask you questions. But what I've seen is very effective in starting conversations that can be very meaningful is when the teacher asks the parents questions that promote dialogue. Because again, the parent may not be comfortable asking you a question, but if you ask them an appropriate question about, not too personal, but about the child's experience in school, then the parent will really open up. And again, this is just based on my personal experience. So one question you could start with is, ¿A Juan le gusta la escuela? ¿A Juan le gusta la escuela? Does Juan, or whatever the child's name is, like school? Does Juan like school? ¿A Juan le gusta la escuela? And even if you're not working with an interpreter, you can tell by the parent's body language a lot of times whether the answer is positive or negative, and then you can decide where to go from there. A similar question would be, ¿Qué dice Juan de sus clases? ¿Qué dice Juan de sus clases? What does Juan say about his classes? So this question, again, you're promoting dialogue between parents and their children about school, as well as between parents and teachers and administrators. Another question that I recommend you ask is, ¿Juan lee en casa? ¿Juan lee en casa? A lot of times, in my experience, when teachers ask this question, the parents will open up that they wish they could read with their child at home, but because they do not speak English, they're not able to do so. Unfortunately, there's a big misconception still widely held that you must leave behind the first language completely in order to master a second language. So this is a great opportunity for you to dispel that misconception and let the parents know that reading at home in the first language or any language will be beneficial to the child's learning. You could also take this opportunity to direct them to where they can find books in their language. If your local or school library does not have any books in the parent's language, there are many scans and ebooks online. I've put some links to websites where you can find children's books in Spanish in the description box of this video. Also, if you have any sites you want to share or questions where to find more resources, please leave a comment. And finally, the last question I recommend you ask is, ¿Juan necesita ayuda con algo? ¿Juan necesita ayuda con algo? Does Juan need help with anything? The parent may respond to this by opening up about different subjects or tasks that the child is struggling with at home, but this is also a time when the parent will open up about other issues, such as bullying that takes place on the bus, issues that maybe do not occur in your classroom but are important for you to know about or the administrators to know about. So with this question, you let parents know that they are welcome to come to the school about these concerns. Gracias por ver el video. Thanks for watching the video. I hope it was helpful to you, and I'm very thankful to all of the professors and teachers and parents who helped me learn this information through my own experience as a volunteer interpreter. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Just let me know in the comments.